Okay, well, we have got Sanat back again, and there he is. Now, Sanat has led this session before, and we've had rave reviews, so he's been invited back. He is going to talk about evaluations and how to improve them. If you registered before about 9 o'clock this morning, you should have received an email with a sort of checklist that he uses. If you haven't, Cameron, can you put that in the chat? And also Sanat will be sharing that, okay? That will be useful for an activity later on. So Sanat is a friend of mine. We are from Division E in the English Midlands. He has been a Toastmaster for many years. We worked together when I was Division Director and he was Area Director of Area 42. He is a very passionate and enthusiastic Toastmaster, which you will begin to appreciate as the evening goes on. So I'm not going to talk anymore. You're here to improve your evaluations. So please help me welcome Sanat. Sanat.
Thank you, Danny. Fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. Let me start by saying there is never enough time to do nothing. If all of us, any of us, want to make a life worth living, then we have no time to waste. So let's get started. I'm really excited in the next hour to be able to share some thoughts, some ideas, and leave you with a template to capture all the good things that you observe in a speaker, so that then you can use that for your commendations of what you liked. And if you didn't see some of those techniques and ideas, then they might give you some thoughts for your recommendations. Now, this session is split into two parts. The first part is where I'm going to help us to get a better understanding of what evaluations is about, what it's meant to be, how to deliver it, how to present it. I'm then going to look at the anatomy of an evaluation and how the checklist that I'm going to share with you, and you'll be welcome to use it, fits in with that very well, and will allow us in the second part, where we're going to have the privilege of listening to Pierre, Paul, and Andrani, a really good friend of mine from Heart of England, who's going to be doing a target speech between 5, 6, and 7 minutes. And we're going to then break out into small groups using that template, some of the thoughts and ideas that we would have gleaned in the first half to, in our groups, do an evaluation, appoint a spokesperson, and then we're going to have time probably in the second half after that to come back and have 5 or 6 groups share their evaluations. Is everybody okay with that? All right, let's get started. The first part, understanding what evaluations are about. The thing to bear in mind is that an evaluation is an opinion. It's your impression, it's your consideration of what you saw and heard. It's not an edict, it's not a fact. And because it's an opinion, when you share your observations, it's always important to prefix that with your opinion. So here's a few examples. You could say, for me, I felt that, and I'm going to imagine I'd heard Pierre. I say, for me, I felt that Pierre started off really, really well. In my view, I thought he did this in an exceptionally memorable way. For me, I'd have liked to have seen something of this and a little more. So by expressing it as an opinion, it's received in a much more positive way. So the first point is express it as an opinion, your evaluation. The second point is that when you deliver your evaluation, at Toastmasters, we deliver it not directly to the person. So, for example, I wouldn't say, oh, Pierre, you did this. I noticed when Pierre, you did this. And Pierre, by speaking directly to the person, there is a danger in the mind of the person listening to either feel hurt or want to contradict what you said. But if we present our evaluation in the third party, as if we're speaking, which is what we are, speaking to the audience, this is how we might refer to it. You say, did you notice when Pierre did this? I noticed that Pierre noted these things, and I quite liked when he used this. So I'm referring to Pierre as a third party, not speaking to him directly. That's the second feature. The third is to make sure that our evaluation has a structure. Everything that we do has a structure. Now, you might say, why should I? Well, let me give you an example. And I'm going to give you an illustration. A structure, you might want to think of it as a glove. The purpose of a speech is the hand. The elements and techniques used by the speaker is the fingers that achieve the purpose. Our job as an evaluator is to be able to see the techniques and features behind the speech, record them, and if we, for example, didn't see something, to make a recommendation that can make that speech even more comprehensive, and so fit a future speech even better. So an evaluation then is something for us to do and do well, not just only for ourselves, but we have an obligation to the speaker. Now, some of you, before you registered onto this training course, would have said, well, why should I bother to learn how to give evaluations better? Well, I believe it is one of the most important skills of leadership to be able to give a review, feedback. And Blanchard said, feedback is the breakfast of champions. Bill Gates went further and he said, we all need feedback in order to grow. And I couldn't agree with him more. So an evaluation needs to have a structure. So it needs to have a beginning. Try and make that first start something particularly interesting. You could say, for example, I found Pierre's speech particularly surprising, and I'm going to bring out a few things that you might not have seen and really surprised me. Now, a hook like that, something that makes it interesting, not just for the speaker, but for the audience to listen to your evaluation, is quite a useful technique. And then signposting. Now, sometimes evaluators or speakers say, do I need to signpost? Well, let me give you this one example. If you went into a restaurant and you ask for the menu, and the chef says, we don't do menus, we just bring the food out. And you think, and the chef says, what, you want to know what you're eating? How surprising would that be? But by signposting what it is that you're going to cover in your evaluation and what you're going to leave for the speaker at the end is a good way of being able to see what we as human beings yearn to do, which is termed as gestalt, which is to see the whole picture, to see all the different elements together and how they fit. So by signposting, what we're doing is using that particular feature of our minds in order to help not just the audience to feel at ease to know what's coming up, but also the speaker to know that you're not going to say something that could be controversial. So this is why you would signpost. And then in the end of your evaluation, you would summarize the recommendations, the particular points. Remember that finger analogy that I gave that might have been missing? And you say, these are the things, if the speaker could incorporate into his next speech, it could make it even more memorable. So there we have it, the different elements of an evaluation. What I'd like to do now is for Cameron to put up the template. This is something, because, you know, when you get a speaker who speaks so well that we're caught up by it, we think, oh, did you not miss making some notes? Or they're speaking fairly quickly, and we just can't write quick enough. Well, Cameron, if you would mind putting up that particular template, I'm going to talk through what to expect from a speech. Now, as an evaluator, you are looking to identify what the purpose of the speech was. And a speech, as far as Toastmaster TMI advises, it can either be one of four things. It can either entertain, it can either inspire, it can either educate, or it can persuade. So as an evaluator, when the speech is over, settle in your own mind which of those four things for you, that speech, the main purpose was. And now we go and look at structure. We talked about how important that structure is to be able to know what's coming up. So here, I've just put on a yes or no. This is a quick way of putting down that did any of these techniques or these ideas, did the speaker incorporate any of them? And it's a quick way of capturing. Was there, for example, a definite start? Did the speech flow and did it follow? Was there a middle? Did it have a ending? And was there a strong takeaway at the end? Did it achieve its purpose? Did it flow? And was there an order? If there wasn't, and there were some no's, it could give you an idea on the right-hand side, a little area there to make as a suggestion. Then, by the way, structure is what helps the audience to understand. It builds understanding. So if a speech has no structure, goes from one thing to another, it is going to cause confusion in the mind. So it's important to have structure because it helps with understanding. Now, content is what gives a speech meaning. So here are some of the techniques that we are looking for as evaluators from the speaker if they've used it. We're looking to see, were there quotes? Did the speaker ask questions? Because when you give a quote, it gives authority. When the speaker asks questions, it's an opportunity to connect with the audience and to engage with them. Did the speaker use facts and figures? Because the use of facts and figures could indicate that the speaker has done a lot of research. It adds credibility. If it wasn't used, that might be an opportunity for a recommendation for you if it was appropriate. Humor is always fantastic. Laughter relaxes the audience, wins them over, and also helps the speaker altogether too. Were there anecdotes and stories to paint the picture? Did the speaker help us to be able to understand the point by using a story? Pauses. It adds importance, gravitas, and also allows the audience to reflect, a moment to reflect as on what they had heard. Now, visual effects, I use the glove. It very quickly and very readily makes an image into your audience. So were there props and visual aids used, and were they used effectively? So content makes a speech meaningful. And then finally, delivery. Now, it's delivery that makes a speech memorable, in my opinion. Now, did the speaker use facial gestures? Did he smile? Did she smile? How about eye contact? Was it lost while looking down at the notes, looking at the floor, looking up at the ceiling? A loss of eye contact can indicate to the audience that the speaker is unsure and at least maybe untrustworthy if they're avoiding eye contact. But by holding the eye contact, you are actually displaying credibility because, as we often say, look me in the eye and tell me the truth. So was there good eye contact? Whenever there's a number used, less than 10, try and use fingers to display the numbers that you are making. First point, second point, third point, fourth, that is helpful. Arms indicate motion. So I would like you to move across this way. So was there use of arms appropriately? Body gestures, were they in sync with the message? I was at a meeting where a speaker was encouraged to use stage, move around, but pointless moving around is maybe make the speaker feel comfortable, but can be distracting. So only recommend stagecraft, using the stage, using the body gestures where they are appropriate. And of course, volume. Was it raised when something really serious was being made? And was it lowered when there was a moment of compassion? So volume was the pace in keeping with the points of the speech. And of course, enthusiasm, energy, it's infectious, we know. So was there an element of charisma that the speaker was sharing with us? Now, here I also on the middle indicate for you. So when you're giving your evaluation, you are actually providing a much deeper understanding. You could say, for example, the speaker used a good variety of voice variation, which allowed for me to be able to understand when there was some serious action going on within the speech. Looks like we've got some jittering going on at the bottom of the, certainly on my screen. Hopefully everybody else can see that. Well, so there you have it. Structure provides understanding. Content makes a speech meaningful. Delivery makes it memorable. Here are some of the techniques and areas that you are looking to see if the speaker used them. If the speaker didn't use them, that will afford you the opportunity of making recommendations. So if we can come out of this particular screen, Cameron, and I could return. So what I would like to do is ask Pierre, we're going to go into our second part. I'm going to ask Pierre if he would be kind enough to deliver his target speech. So let me just introduce Pierre. Pierre has been a Toastmaster for 10 years. He's a fundamental and important member of Heart of England. His speeches have been always memorable. I can almost quote each and every one of them. Today won't be an exception, I'm sure. So I'm going to welcome Pierre. Pierre, would you please give us your target speech titled The Job? With the job, let's welcome Pierre.
Fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. Beep, 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 beep. It's 4:30 in the morning. It is pitch black outside. I turn around and say, babe, I can't do this anymore. She says, okay. I get up, I get dressed, and I get down to my job. It's pitch black. I can't see anything. I'm on radar as I walk down the street. And I make it to the sign, and I think to myself, I'm a double graduate. I'm an engineer and industrial designer. How did I get here? If we go back to the beginning, February 2002, I spent 6 months in France. My girlfriend and I broke up, and now I'm back in Detroit. Yes, I'm going to find a job in the Motor City. That's what I want to do. And we have a brand new start with my girlfriend. We have a brand new apartment. We have a new footing. I have a new zest and a new pep in my step. I'm going to make it in Detroit. I'm going to find a job. It's February. Goes into March, spring, summer. Nothing. And things start to get testy at home. Nikki and I start arguing. And one afternoon, at the end of June, I just walk out of the apartment. So here I am in Southfield, Michigan, which is about 10 miles northwest of Detroit. And I'm next to this road called Telegraph Road. And it's 8 lanes, so 4 north, 4 southbound. And it's just loud. And if you're thinking, what does it look like? Well, if you figure out think of any show you've seen about America, and you think about any suburb in America, it looks just like any other suburb in America. The same little apartments, the same strip malls, the same stores. It's suburban hell. But I told myself, I got to find a job. So I walk down the street and I find about 4 or 5 businesses, and I ask them, are you hiring? They say no. And I finally get to the sign, and I'm like, oh. 45 minutes later, I get back to the apartment. And I say, babe, I found myself a job. She's like, really? Yeah, I'm going to feed breakfast to America at McDonald's. You didn't go to the electronics store that's like north on Telegraph? No, but doesn't matter. I got a job. I'm going to feed America. Here was the plan. I wake up at 4:30 every day, do the morning shift, feed breakfast to America. Then when 10:30, 11 o'clock, I could walk home and then just send resumes, get on the phone, do interviews. Raise your hand if you ever worked at a McDonald's. I'm sure a few of us, yes, a few of us have. And as you know, if there's a definition of Hell's Kitchen, it's in McDonald's, especially at breakfast. Americans love you guys, and I'm American myself. We love breakfast. Imagine when you mess up, you can actually block an entire 8-lane freeway, which I had. I was in the kitchen, it was greasy, it was hot, everything was blinking, everything was boiling, and you could see the line of cars, and you know everybody was pissed off not to get their McNugget. I had my mom on the phone, and she said, well, I don't know, maybe it's time to give up on the auto business. And we chatted a little bit, and she hung up. And this is when it hit me. No. Mm-mm. Actors go to Hollywood. Finance guys go to London or New York. Car guys, we go to Detroit. I found out who I wanted to be with. And it's gonna happen here. It will happen. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not moving. There was a stack of eggs in the kitchen. Think about like 24 by 24. And it's about, I'm 6'2", so it came up to here. So you can do the math how many eggs that is. And by the time you started at breakfast, all the way down to lunch, almost all the eggs were gone. But I told myself, if I have to crack every single egg in that crate, I will do it. I am not going anywhere until I get my shot. As it turns out, that's a stubborn stack of eggs. I couldn't hack it anymore. But I can't do this anymore. So that was my last day at McDonald's. I walked home and I'm thinking it was around lunchtime, thinking, well, maybe this afternoon I'll check out the electronics store, or tomorrow, who knows. Get into the apartment, and back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, we had this thing called a landline and an answering machine. And the answering machine was flickering, meaning I had a message. I played the message and it said the following. Well, hello, we're calling for Pierre from the Deco Group, and we're here on behalf of General Motors, and we'd like to offer you a job. The job. Needless to say, I never made it to the electronics store. In conclusion, there are a few things I learned from this experience. First thing is, you can't run from your problems. I took a plane, went to France for 6 months, trying to escape myself. It didn't work. The second thing is, if you have your own plan in your head of things you want to accomplish, just do it. You're the only one who can understand what you can achieve. Other people will doubt you, think you're crazy, but in the end, trust yourself. And the third thing is, yes, I found the job I was dreamt about this whole time, but it wasn't the job. That job at McDonald's really taught me a lot. It taught me about myself, about my priorities, about what I wanted, and who I wanted to be with. It's really a formative job in my entire career. But let me tell you one thing. If you're ever in this situation, check out the electronics store first. It's our Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Pierre. I very much enjoyed that speech on the job. Cameron, if you could highlight me for everyone, what I'd like us to do now, Cameron is going to take each of you away into little groups of 4, 5, at the maximum 6, into those breakout groups. What I'd like you to do is, in your breakout groups, is to nominate one person as a spokesperson to represent the ideas, collect all of the techniques, the thoughts that you've got, give those to the spokesperson, and then that spokesperson to deliver an evaluation on behalf of your group. And we're going to probably have time for maybe 5 or 6 spokespersons to give their evaluations. If we have time for more, we'll certainly will. And we'll use the template by all means to act as a working document. And we will take around about 15 minutes in the breakout session. Cameron will give you a 5-minute warning, then a 1-minute warning, and then we'll all come back, and then we will have those evaluations. So Cameron, would you be kind enough to allocate everyone into their breakout groups, please? Welcome everybody back to the collective meeting. I hope you had a enjoyable time. I hope you have appointed your spokesperson, shared your thoughts and ideas. If you are able to use that template or one of your own to capture the techniques and the ideas that the speaker used and shared with us, that will be good. What I'm going to ask Danny in a moment is to start with the first spokesperson, and Danny will call their name out, and Cameron will spotlight you. If you can give us your evaluation, and then afterwards, when Danny asks for subsequent spokespersons, if the points that you have got has already been covered, maybe rather than repeat them, you could just highlight those that have yet to be covered so that different points are being made each time. That would be helpful. So with that, Danny, could we ask for the first name of the first spokesperson to come forward and give their evaluation, please?
Certainly. We'll start off with room 1. Let's be adventurous. Room 1, that was Marta, Rebecca, Tiago and Joe. Whoever's your spokesperson.
Good evening. I'm the spokesperson. My name is Rebecca, and I thought we thought Pierre-Paul's speech was truly exceptional. The storytelling was very good, and the ending was particularly captivating and memorable because of that unexpected twist, and also the series of recommendations, not only to believe in yourself, which is a general one, but also if you're going to work in a town, to look in the area where there are other engineering jobs. So a little peppering of humor in there as well. In terms of recommendations, we felt that there could have been a use of a visual aid or a prop. An actual alarm could have been used, for example, and better use of the camera. So possibly to stand further back, because while Pierre-Paul used excellent gesticulations, at times some of the arm movements and finer hand movements were lost because of proximity to the camera. The beginning was understandable as the speech emerged, but initially we found it a little confusing, so we weren't sure what was going on at the beginning of the speech at times. Overall, though, we felt that there was extremely clear voice and good pace keeping, that he aced the vocal variety and showed lots of energy and confidence, and that gave such a joy to listen to his speech as a result. It was a very enthusiastic delivery, engaging, and the pause at the end when he sucked in the air was exceptional and one of the best examples of a dramatic ending that we've seen. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that evaluation from your group. Could we listen now to our second spokesperson, Danny? If you could ask him.
Somebody from room 4, which was Bridget, Weldon, Christian, Maura, or Sarab. Maura.
I hope to make justice to my group. Best. Mr. Toastmasters and welcome guests, and in particular Pierre, what a speech you give us tonight. Oh yes, I must say, to start with a beautiful introduction and leading to us to your speech. I love your structure. In my opinion, you have beautifully start, which grab our attention, and also the middle and at the end. But my favorite part was the conclusion. Oh, yes, I can tell you. Now, everybody understands you perfectly. And I really love how you started from France and then going to McDonald's. And then the happy ending that you have. Your content, for me, I feel it really feel that was very meaningful. Because first of all, you tell us a beautiful story and you were so vulnerable to us. Vulnerable to us. You know what? My heart is broken. And then you explain your beautiful experience and you put beautiful pictures of what happened in McDonald's. I have been there not from breakfast, for my milkshakes, but you describe me and I just feel being there. And you described so well every part that I was really amazed of the way how you describe it, every part. Now, you have a beautiful ending to find the job that you were looking for. And I really love how you concluded giving the message of your story. Now, your delivery, oh my God, I love your facial expressions. I love when you say, I really love your eyes, your smile, all your expressions in your beautiful eyes. Contacts were amazing also, they were smiling to us. And I could see most of your face. And my first recommendation will be your hand gestures. Oh yes, your hand gestures. I could see sporadically your right hand, and you were doing the famous duck. That is, your hands were here, or sometimes I couldn't see it. So what I will recommend, you frame yourself, go a little far, show your hands again in background, but you were not. So what I will do is show my two hands to close, far, and show more that you can, because I couldn't see your arms, your hands, and also your fingers. Now, your volume was good, but for what I feel, to get more and more, to have a happy ending. And I want this enthusiasm to say, yes, I got the job. And I didn't see that. I just feel your voice describing McDonald's and I can feel with you. But if you change your voice and you feel what you feel, you bring us everything of you. You have beautiful poses. But imagine putting and emphasizing, yes. And if you don't feel an audience, something is wrong, because I am trying to put my best. So in conclusion, I love your speech, beautiful structure, beautiful content, and look forward to see you in your new job.
Thank you very much. Danny, if we could ask our third evaluator spokesperson to come forward. You're on mute just at the moment.
Mute, I'm on mute. It's my middle name.
Yeah, and perhaps if we can have maybe I don't know how long we've got for each evaluation. Is typically something like
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
The normal evaluation time.
Yes, please.
And if we have room 9, and that was the one with Alva, Enrique, Graham Dunn, Lloyd, or Paul.
Hi, Danny.
Hi, Graham.
How are you? Thanks a million for the speech, Pierre. It was really good, in a sense that we went through the story. In a sense, we kind of all had opinions on where Pierre excelled. We thought there was humor. It was like reading a good book. For me personally, it felt like sitting down with one of the elders and they give you a good old story to listen to. Oh, sorry, they'll tell you a story with a room full of maybe younger kids, and because we was full of expression. We thought vocal pitches were used really well, and even body language. We felt that Pierre done a great job. I loved the start, the head dropping, alarm going off, being at the end of the road, hand on face. It was kind of everything related back to the speech. He kept us interested, which was great. We felt that the voice matched the situation for the entirety, whether there was conversation happening or whether Pierre was just telling us about the decisions he had made. He was confident, competent, and comfortable in his delivery, and he transmitted a lot of pleasure in delivering the speech, which made it great from a listener's point of view. When it came to suggestions, we struggled, and we felt we were wondering what other groups would be like, because it was such a really interesting and good speech. Really enjoyed listening to it. We came up with maybe he could stand up. I know it's kind of, you'll hear a lot of that through Zoom, people standing up away from the camera. But another good suggestion that I felt came from the group was Pierre had a fantastic opening. It was animated, it was acted out. There was a piece there before with the alarm going off and honey, I can't do this anymore. There was an opportunity to put in a question to the audience to say, it's going to be, this speech is about decisions. What would you do in this? What would you think about this? And then continue with the story. So we are able to follow him, but we're also trying to come up with a conclusion, or we're asking ourselves a couple of questions throughout the speech. But all in all, it was really good, really well prepared, well delivered, and look forward to hearing Pierre again at a later stage. Thanks a million.
Thank you very much for that evaluation. Danny, have we got our next spokesperson, please, to share?
Yeah, it's room 8, which was Kate, Linda, Philip, Tom O'Keefe, or Carol Deacon, whoever's your spokesperson.
Yeah, I think I'm the guy that drew the short straw there, Danny. So I just go quickly through our notes and what we liked. Absolutely, we liked the structure. We liked the storytelling, and we thought the finish was very good and very subtle. Great use of vocal variety. Ways of improving. I made a couple of notes on that. The use of pauses was quite good, but sometimes there could have been more time given for us to digest what had just been said before that. So maybe a little bit longer on the pauses. The screen presence, right? This has already been covered. More effective use of the screen real estate. In other words, could be centered a bit more, maybe standing up. Eye contact with the camera is very essential, and it could have been better in what it was being done. The background was a little bit distracting, and we would recommend the use of blur background, for instance, or else a plain white wall. We were trying to identify what the certs were on the background on the wall while he was talking, which can be a little bit off-putting. And as I said, standing in order to be able to display more energy than what he actually had, but that's a small thing. And finally, the beginning, better use of the signposting and earlier. We felt a little bit lost for the first minute or so in the speech. It started to come together, but maybe that could have been done a little bit quicker. So that's it overall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think would you have time for one more, or shall I start?
We've only got 5 minutes, so if
Okay.
you want to sum up.
Yeah.
Can I just say before you do, there have been some comments in chat about your sheet,
Yep.
guide sheet. We will send it out to everybody who's registered, so don't worry if you've not picked it up tonight. That's it, Sanat.
Okay, lovely. Well, let me just thank everybody for their attention and their cooperation, particularly in your breakout groups. The spokespersons have been sterling representatives of your group's ideas and shared with us, which we found, I found particularly valuable. The thing I wanted to ask you to bear in mind when in part of your evaluation is to share what you believed the speaker's purpose was in their speech. Did Pierre look to inspire us? Did he look to persuade us? Did he look to entertain us? Or was the purpose of his speech to educate? So somewhere in your evaluation, you might, and I would recommend maybe early on to say that in my opinion, this was a particularly good speech, the purpose of which was to educate, and he really did that very well. In this particular one, I think it was to entertain us with an element of inspiration as well, with the good news at the end. So think about that as part of your evaluations. Look at that template, use it if you wish. It's important to be able to structure your evaluations, and typically this is what I would do, and you might want to think of it. I would remind myself that I want to say something on structure, something on content, and something on delivery, and the evaluators did certainly do that. So this is one way that you could articulate your evaluation. You could say, I really enjoyed Pierre's speech. He did so many things really well. I'm going to concentrate on 3 things that had the greatest impact on me from his speech. I'm going to offer some recommendations that Pierre could consider to help improve his future speeches, and I'm going to summarize at the end. Now, by signposting that way, it kind of funnels you into saying, let me first now talk about the structure. And then because of that earlier signposting, it gives you the opportunity to focus your comments on the features of the structure that you saw or that you didn't saw, and then how it helped you to have a better understanding of his speech. And then when you say, now let me talk about content, and then when you highlight the techniques that were used or not used, because those would be your recommendations, you could say, this is how it helped me to get a clear idea of the meaning of the speech. It meant more to me because he used this prompt, or it really highlighted to me when there was a use of facts and figures, because that really pinpointed for me. So this is how you could use it. And say, and finally, I want to mention something about the delivery. And so it then gives you a mental reminder and a structure on which to do it. And then you could say, and then in conclusion, here are the recommendations that I offered, and your reminder of those. If you were to incorporate those speeches going forward could be even more stronger. And everybody offered the encouragement, which is really lovely to see, where they offered the encouragement. So I really look forward to listening to Pierre in his future speeches, and that was a really good way of ending. So if there are any, so firstly, I want to thank you for your time here and for electing to come and find out a little bit more about valuation. I'm hoping that my aim has achieved some benefit. If there are any questions, we may have a minute or two of me, or just generally, I'm happy to take them before we close the meeting if there's time, Danny.
First of all, I'll say thanks to everyone who messaged me and all the evaluation. I really appreciate it, and thank you.
Are there any questions, or are we happy?
Yeah. Hi. Hi, I have a question. First of all, thanks for the session. This is very useful. I really like the structure, the sheet that you shared with us, and actually I found very useful in our breakout session that we use it. My question is, would you suggest to use this sheet when listening, so like a tick, or after listening? So how would be the most effective way of using the sheet?
Initially, thank you for that question, by the way, really good question. Initially, I would use that checklist to just note if I saw it, yes or no, because listening to the speech, and I would have a separate sheet of paper where I would make some notes, but I would just highlight yes or no, yes, as an aid to remind me. So when I was then making my final notes, I would say, oh, crikey, yes, was there something here or was there not? So I would kind of use them in conjunction. And then as you get more and more familiar with doing evaluations, there'll be some natural sense, because you're looking for structure as you listen to the speaker, you'll say, ah, they started really strongly at the beginning. Oh, I can see how this has developed in the middle. And yes, there was a strong ending. There was always, so then that sheet becomes less necessary for ticking yes or no, but it allows you to be able to put down your recommendation. So I would use it quickly to identify if you saw it or not, and then you could use it more fully later on. That's how I would recommend.
Thanks, Sanat. I know that there's some hands up. I'm sure if you're willing to stay on after 8,
Yes.
Sanat will answer your questions. But we do promise to finish at 8, and we don't want to keep anybody if you've got meetings or whatever. One thing I'd just like people to do, if they're prepared, we like to put this on Facebook just to advertise these sessions. So if you could just switch your video off if you're happy with that, and we'll take a print screen. Can people stop putting stuff in the chat at the minute, because that's going on the print screen, that's going to go on the picture. Are we all ready? Just practice smiling a little. After 3, I'll do this one, Cameron. After 3, 1, 2, 3, and smile. And I'll just do another one just for safekeeping. If you can smile again, please. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sanat, for that. As always, you give great value for money. We forgot to record the second part of it, but don't worry, Sanat did this before Christmas. So if you want to go onto YouTube, District 71 training, all our videos are on there. You're more than welcome to look at any of them. I will, Sanat, I'll get him to give me the form, and I will email out the form that he sent out. I will make sure everybody gets a copy again who's on our register. And next week we have got a slightly different topic, parliamentary procedure. That's for officers and VPs and presidents, but anybody's more than welcome to come because it's applicable to jobs outside Toastmasters. So once again, thank you very much for turning up. Thank you, Sanat. Thank you, Cameron, for doing the Zoom mastering.
Danny, we're still recording.
Sorry?
We're still recording.
Are we?
Yeah, I set it back on when they came back at the breakout.
Okay, well, we did record it, never mind. But you can see the edited highlights of Sanat's performance over the last year. If you go to District 71 training, he's done 3 of these now. So thank you for your time. Have a pleasant evening and hopefully see you around sometime. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Stay well.
Thank you.
Femi's got a hand up.
Oh yeah, Femi, do you want to ask a question?
Thank you, Sanat, and it was such a lovely session tonight. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Sorry, I'm not camera ready. That's why I'm not coming on camera. But my question is just very quickly: could you use the same structure if you were doing a general evaluation, for example, where you're evaluating everything that's not been evaluated? Could you use? Would it work for that as well?
Thank you for your question. I think when you're giving the general evaluation, it could work, but you may not need as much material because of the time constraint, and you're doing a review of the whole meeting. So it could be helpful, but it might not be quite as helpful. When I've given general evaluations, what I'm looking to see from the impression of my seeing the whole meeting is to see, has the Toastmaster meeting etiquette been explained? Because oftentimes when I've attended clubs, the officers describing their role just say, this is what I do, but without explaining the purpose, the value of what they do, those that follow on can't understand the importance of that role. So for example, somebody would say, I'm the timekeeper, it's my job to keep to time, and these are the signal, the lights, and then sit down. But without explaining to say, the importance of keeping to time is that I work closely with the president to ensure that the meeting runs to order and everybody has an opportunity to find their voice, and if all the elements of the meeting are kept. Imagine if you were a speaker and you ran over. The event organizer isn't going to thank you, and the speaker who's going to follow you isn't going to thank you. And in fact, you may not get a booking next time. And if you were to run over at work, your colleagues or the MD or the head of department isn't going to appreciate if the meeting runs over and the importance of all the other elements don't get covered. So it's so important that we practice keeping to time, and that's the value of the timekeeper. So each role has an importance. So I would, in my evaluation, look to see if each of the officers was able to not only explain what they do, why they did it, and what was the value of doing it. So to answer your question, the form might not be quite as useful because as a general evaluator, you'll be looking, in my opinion, to be covering other things.
Thank you, Sanat. That was really, really helpful. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for your question.
I think there are no more questions. So
Okay.
Yes,
go home.
sorry, this is Güneş. I have one more question. Thank you. So evaluation is something I'm really trying to improve myself, and I am a kind of maybe would be beginner side of it. So I'm really appreciate having me for this question. So Sanat, my question is about when we do the evaluation, so we share about opinions on a content wise, like structure, content delivery. Does it also, or would it also be so much important how we convey this message? So our body language, our delivery, does it really matter, or is it more about the most important thing is sharing our opinion, recommendation? How would you maybe guide on this one?
Oh, very good question. I think the thing is, an evaluation is an opportunity to make a speech, isn't it? The important thing for an evaluator when they're giving their evaluation is to not to outshine the speaker, because the evaluation shouldn't be more impactful or so much better than the speaker, because then the evaluator becomes the main person. Now, you ask, should you use body language and intonation and description? I always believe that we should lead by example. And an evaluation, when you deliver your evaluation, should be something that others listening, watching, can learn something from you. So if you were to hold back some of the energy, some of your charisma, some of the impact of the points that you're making, you're really perhaps not letting the audience learn from the quality of your evaluation. So I would say, important not to outshine the speaker, but it would be equally important to bring all of the elements of a good speech, all of those elements that, in terms of structure, content, and delivery, to come to bear. Because as a leader, we should show by example. And if we show good example, someone else can say, ah, I saw that person do it. That's the way to do it. Now, good or bad, if you were to deliver your evaluation in a very blunt, moderate way, the other people following will say, that's how we should do it. So I'm always a ambassador to say, be the best person you possibly can be, so that those who follow can say, ow, wow, that's how I need to do it. And then the joy of anybody who shares something is to see those that have learned something from you develop and move even further ahead of you. So that then the coach or the trainer or the person who can say, now I'm learning from you. Thank you very much. And it's that in a corporate. So I would say, be the best person you can. Use everything in your armory. Just be mindful not to outshine the speaker. That's what I would say.
Okay. Very, very helpful. Very clear. Thank you.
You're most welcome, and thank you for your question. And good luck with your evaluations. I'm sure you're going to be outstanding.
Hopefully. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Sorry, I also forgot to thank Pierre, Paul. Sorry about that. Pierre, thank you for being prepared to deliver a speech in front of 64 people. Very brave. There are no more questions.
Thank you all.
Sorry, Sanat?
No, that's Pierre.
No, I said
Pierre.
thanks. No, it was a pleasure. And thanks everyone for the feedback. Is really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks, Pierre.
Well, if there are no more questions, you can all go home to bed now.
Okay.
or whatever. You're all dismissed.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, everybody. Really
Take care.